Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen and welcome to the latest edition of SecondsOut FLEXpectations, a weekly look ahead at the boxing matches and cards to come over the coming weekend. And this week, I should say as well, we're here every Thursday, 4:30 p.m. And this week we're going to be looking predominantly at a rare case of Sunday night boxing here in the UK as Sky Sports and Matchroom put on their latest show, the first one they've done since Fight Camp. It seems like a distant memory already, doesn't it, the way things are going this year. But yeah, topped by Joshua Buatsi, long-awaited return of one of the best prospects / contenders in world boxing at the moment, Olympic bronze medalist, of course, and light heavyweight, former undefeated British light heavyweight champion, now looking to make an impact on the world scene. And at the Marshall Arena in Milton Keynes, which I believe they're going to use for their next two shows, with no fans in attendance, of course, he will be going up against a fellow unbeaten in Marko Calic. And this is one of those where the bare statistics don't really tell the full story, because you look at it on paper, Joshua Buatsi 12-0, former amateur star, Marko Calic, former good amateur, 11-0. It looks like a pretty well-matched fight, you know, crossroads fight. One of them goes further, closer to the world scene. One of them drops back down to kind of domestic level. But it's not really the case, because Buatsi, even though he's been criticised in some quarters for his quality of opposition so far, has fought significantly better opponents than Calic as it stands. And not only that, Calic was a long-time amateur. He turned pro quite late on. He had a dream of going to the Olympics. He lost the qualifier for the most recent iteration of those, and then decided to turn over at quite an advanced age. Buatsi started boxing later than Calic, had less or fewer, grammar police, fewer amateur fights, and achieved that bronze medal and success on the international stage in a far shorter time frame than Calic. So I'm kind of looking at them as two guys who, one spent almost twice as long in the amateurs but didn't achieve anywhere near as much, and has been moved a lot slower as a pro. And generally when that happens, it means one of two things, sometimes a combination of the two. Either a lack of opportunities, and I'm not sure the Croatian boxing scene is particularly vibrant at the moment, or the fact that the people behind them, the managers, the promoters, know what they've got in their fighter, and some fighters need to be moved a lot slower than others. Some guys can be fast-tracked, and I think Buatsi is one of those guys. Short professional career so far, he's shown a level of poise, composure, clinical ruthlessness in the ring, albeit against, you know, inferior opposition to him, that belies his tender level of experience. He can go far, you know, and I've said before, I think he will be a world champion. Fights like this, if it's just for marking time, and he's already said in the build-up that he's happy to be out again before the end of this year, potentially against Callum Johnson, which would be a great fight, I think, for his progression, and maybe even a great fight for Johnson. I don't want to appear like I'm writing him off in that equation. But yeah, I think that's the sort of fight we want to see him in. But he's been out of the ring, as so many fighters have, for a long time. Rush shedding exercise, no problem, but I don't expect it to be highly competitive. Calic, sound fundamentals, good counter puncher. But I just think against someone like Buatsi, sitting back and trying to pick him off is merely asking for trouble and inviting extra pressure. And it's not, you know, raw, silly pressure, you know. It's not reckless, that's the word I was looking for. It's not reckless pressure, it's intelligent, you know, good use of footwork, great shot selection, that type of pressure. And I think he'll get the job done somewhere around halfway. So with that being in mind, and I've said this about the October 17th Chief support as well, there's a female world title fight on the show on Sunday. Chantelle Cameron cashing in one of her two mandatory chances. This one at super lightweight for the vacant WBC belt against Adriana Araujo of Brazil. And although it's not, in the case of the October 17th show, a fight between two British ladies, it is a female world title fight, a couple of levels above for the male equivalent, where Buatsi Calic is. And Buatsi, yes, you know, he's a bigger name, and they want to push him as an even bigger name. You know, he probably hasn't got the coverage he deserves thus far. But a kind of niggling feeling in the back of my mind says that Cameron, having won two final eliminators, finally getting her chance at a world title, really should be the main event. Especially given the strides that Matchroom and Sky have taken over the summer in giving more prominence to female fights, particularly the main event between Terry Harper and Natasha Jonas, which of course was, again, two British ladies fighting each other. So I can understand the distinction there. But yeah, I just feel like it's the better fight and likely to be more of a competitive fight as well. Now I've said that, watch, Chantelle Cameron will win in like 40 seconds or something. But Araujo never fought outside Brazil before. She's coming over. She's WBC silver champion, defended that a couple of times. Good test for Cameron. But I just think, especially at super lightweight, she's a very, very strong lightweight. That those extra couple of pounds, or extra 5 pounds actually, I think gives her a bit more wiggle room, if you like, in the preparation. It's probably a weight 140, maybe a bit above where she's done a lot of her sparring in the past as well, so she'll be very comfortable at it. And got Jamie Moore in the corner. Nigel Travis, a vital member of that team, was with Stephen Ward last night in a separate bubble, in an MTK bubble. Bubbles everywhere. We're forever blowing bubbles. Apologies to West Ham fans and everyone else. But yeah, Chantelle Cameron, I think she'll get the job done in good fashion, maybe even a late stoppage. But I think it'll be competitive action and another female world title fight on British shores, which I think is a good thing. But I would have liked to have seen it given more prominence on the card. But talking of the card, it's actually a very impressive, quite deep card, especially for boxing hardcore fans. They might not be massive names necessarily on the show, but there's some really good fights. You've got that rearranged Akid Fiaz-Kane Baker fight, which I think is a really intriguing contest. I think Baker, despite his spotty record, has only really been beaten clearly up at 140. Faces a fellow lightweight in Fiaz. That was delayed from a fight camp show when Baker was ill just before it was due to take place. So there's that kind of subtext as well, which is good. John Harding Jr. challenging Linus Udofia for the English middleweight title. That's a really good fight. 50-50 on paper. Udofia has proved himself at a certain level, but hasn't, despite appearing on big TV shows, hasn't really risen to prominence in the way he might have hoped. Harding Jr. impressed a lot of people with that gutsy effort against Jack Cullen. He aims to improve on that and actually win the English title this time around. Part of that Dillian Whyte camp, been working incredibly hard out in Portugal. You can see on the channel I interviewed him recently and Linus as well. So that's a really good one. And then the one that probably intrigues me the most on the show, the Savage, Alen Babic, as a pro, never been beyond 2 rounds. All action style, getting the big build up. Another one who's part of that Dillian Whyte team. He gets his first real test as a pro over 8 rounds. So it'd be interesting to see how many of those he actually goes against Niall Kennedy. Irishman, mixed in better class, but lost his last fight by stoppage to Devin Vargas. He's worked incredibly hard for this. I know he has. Interviewed him not too long ago. You should really check that one out. I'm not just saying it because it's one of my interviews. Matchroom loved it. They used it as a basis for a press release. Kennedy talks a lot about previous battles in his life and bringing up his kid. And it's a fascinating interview. I don't want to act like I'm in love with my own work. Do you know what I mean? It was all Kennedy anyway, but really, really good stuff. And talks about his motivation for this fight. And I think he's a very good fighter, underrated, never really been given his big opportunity in the UK, based a lot of his career out in the US. And I think he'll come to give it a really good go against the Savage. And he's got those technical skills and probably hits hard enough as well to get Babic's attention. But it's whether he can withstand the early storm that Babic will bring and take him into round 3, uncharted territory for the first time, and beyond, to infinity and beyond. We also see the debut of John Hedges, the gentleman. Huge, huge guy. I think he's like 6'5", super middleweight, southpaw, which is crazy because S-Jam Boxing are very high on this guy. I've also got Johnny Fisher, and Johnny Fisher's a heavyweight and he's shorter than John Hedges. But John Hedges looks a real prospect, won myriad national titles as a junior, still very young. Turning over. A lot of people have been anticipating this debut. I think it's good for him at such a tender age that his debut's taking place near the foot of what is quite a deep card. So although there will be a fair amount of attention on him, they're not putting him up on a pay-per-view or anything like that for his first fight. It takes a little bit of the pressure off and he can build kind of under the radar a little bit, which I think is good for him. But it's just, it's a really good show. As a whole, for boxing fans specifically, like hardcore boxing fans specifically. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to turn over to you guys now. Let me know in the comments below which fight on the show you're most looking forward to seeing. who you think will turn in the performance of the night, and what are your views on Buatsi generally? How far can he go, and how soon can he get there? We all know people have been talking about him against Anthony Yard. We know what people think of that. But really, what I want to know is, which of the current world champions does he beat? Or does he have to wait a little while before some of that changes? Because, you've got people like Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol. It's a formidable division at the top level. Is he ready for that? Let me know. And before I go, as this is a preview show and I haven't mentioned it at all, I should also say that there's a top-ranked show on Saturday night in the bubble. Incredible main event between Jose Zepeda and Ivan Berinchyk. Great clash/mesh of styles. I think that's for a WBC silver belt as well. Really good to watch. I believe it will be. So if there's a way of watching that in the UK, I'm not up to date on it, but tune in if you can. I'll be trying to find somewhere to watch it the next day because I'm not staying up till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning these days. But yeah, just wanted to mention that before I go. I'll be back for Reflections, looking back on the Sunday show, and probably Berinchyk Zepeda on Monday at 4:30 p.m. And I'll be here for the next FLEXpectations next week, 4:30 p.m., which will feature, among other things, Liam Williams against Andrew Robinson. Really appreciate your time, as always, and I will see you all soon. Thank you very much.